Hey everyone, it's Brian at briancollects.com. In this video, I'm going to show you my top 5 headlines related to comic books. And I'm going to show you those that got my attention and kept my attention. As many of you are aware, that's extremely hard to do in today's fast-paced world. We're all extremely busy. We have other priorities. Well, fortunately, I am a newsaholic. I spend a lot of time digging through videos, blogs, news articles, and I'm going to show you mine if you show me yours. I'd love to see it. So without further ado, let's get right to it. Coming in at number 5 is an article titled DC Comics launched their own NFT marketplace by James Ellis, published on June 2nd on NFTevening.com. Although it's a short read, I was happy to stumble across it. Nowadays, it seems as if everyone is trying to get in on the NFT action, and DC Comics is no exception. In the article, James says, and I quote, "There are enormous plans for the vast ecosystem of DC Comics, and the introduction of the beta marketplace is just the beginning," end quote. To find out more about the NFT marketplace, including DC Comics' first few projects, you can go to the tiny URL or scan the QR code to view the article in full. Coming in at number 4 is an article published on comicsbeat.com, June 3rd, by Ricardo Serrano Dennis. It's called The Trouble with Free Comic Book Day. It's a slightly longer read reflecting on Ricardo's first experience with the program back in 2011. Ricardo has wondered who these comics were for, or who's the intended audience ever since. Now, I've collected many things most of my life, but I got into comics in my later years, and I often wondered the same. Not knowing much of this program's history and just imagining his first impression, I was instantly hooked on the article. Ricardo goes on to talk about samplers and zero issues. He questions if they are catering to new readers or collectors and established readers. Although he expresses various concerns throughout the article, I wouldn't say in any way that Ricardo is negative toward the efforts of the program. The reason I say this is because he very rationally brings up several valid questions backed by examples with what I perceive to be a genuine interest towards improving the cause. If you do take the time to read the article in full, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Who knows, maybe if we get enough constructive feedback, and we're extremely lucky, Ricardo will chime in as well. It would be nice to know the first experience to Free Comic Book Day by my many nephews and nieces around the country will be met with a much better experience than Ricardo's was. Coming in at number 3 is a YouTube video less than 9 minutes in length by Alex the Comic Hoarder, posted on June 5th, titled Comic Investing High Dollar Comic Protection, with over 3,000 views already. The video did spark quite a few thoughts, so I'm going to try and be quick here. Most of my early comics were so beat up and worthless they wound up getting replaced by a digital subscription. I know that sounds awful to many of you, but this was well before I seriously considered collecting comics like I had with my other collectibles. Since then, I've only focused on graded comics, but I love watching content like this where others talk us through their processes and the products they use and why. I've watched Reggie Collects and others do similar videos, but it doesn't matter whose video you watch. They're all great in their own way, and they all have their place. I simply choose to watch them all if and when I can. Like I said, I'm a newsaholic. I get through as many as I can. The challenge for writers and creators is that you just have to get my attention and keep it. Now, we can pick and choose what we like, decide what works and doesn't work for us. I also believe variations between content creators help stimulate conversation in the hobby and can lead to some level of consistency or acceptable norms, besides making it an awesome reference and educational platform for those new to the hobby. We can also gather insights from the community to learn what is and is not working, or what might be missing to generate ideas for ways to make things better or create new products or services. My final thought that Alex sparked was that maybe someday I'll get the courage to purchase and keep higher-end books carefully bagged and boarded before shipping it off to get graded or skipping for a graded copy. It might actually help me grow my collection a little faster while diversifying the financial investment in my collection as it grows over time. It's something I may have to seriously consider if I can continue to improve my confidence to find and select raw copies and get in the habit of bagging and boarding my books the way Alex demonstrates in this video. Alex, you have a wonderful display, but how do you safely store them? On June 2nd, Thinking Critical on YouTube, with over 18,000 subscribers, posted a video titled DC Comics Sales Crisis from Bad to Worse. The video is quickly approaching 13,000 views. In the video, Wes is analyzing the comic book sales from May 2022 and even provides us with resources so we can do our own research. Thank you. He goes as far as saying, and I quote, "People really aren't interested in a lot of what DC are putting out right now," end quote. Now I know, but DC has Batman, Justice League, Superman, and the Detective Comics, and they're responding to their most vocal critics. Well, all I can say is tuning into this extremely informative market data deep dive by Thinking Critical is an absolute must. But be forewarned, Wes pulls no punches in the video, so you may want to turn it down just a tad if you have children or others in the room before hitting that play button. Now, after watching the video, do you think DC is in real trouble? Are you buying their books? And if so, what books and why? And finally, the moment you've all been waiting for. Coming in at number 1 is an article from one of my favorite sites and group of authors at GoCollect.com. They published a comic market report by Joseph on June 6th called Deals, Inflation, and Hoarding Hot Titles. Now, those of us who sub with GoCollect will most likely tell you they're one of the best sources of aggregated sales data. But here is an author who hits the ground in search of answering the why part of the equation for us from a buyer's perspective. This is going the extra mile, and what better place to do it than Motor City Comic Con? So how hungry were the fans? Were raw books in play? Is the MCU having an impact? Should we be scared in the current market conditions? And much more. Joseph tries to answer those questions for us. Finally, as Joseph said, inflation is changing buyers' habits, and they want deals but not the risk of buying on non-protective platforms. So I'm left wondering what that means for platforms like Shortboxed versus the vaulting services or other ideas that may pop up and attempt to protect us against the never-ending onslaught of scams, fakes, and frauds that the collectibles market has to deal with on a regular basis. So please visit the tiny URL or scan that QR code to view the report in full. You won't regret it.
Thank you for watching. Please collect and geek responsibly.